misses us.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the County Council meeting for February 2021. If you'll stand with us, I have asked Vicki Kivett to lead us in prayer and Troy Sprinkle to for our pledge.
You go first, Troy.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Dear Heavenly Father, we just thank you for this day and opportunity to serve our government. We thank you that we do have a free nation, dear Lord, and we just pray that you be with our nation, and not only our nation, but our world as well. We pray for our military, whether they be on our soil or foreign soils. We pray for our public safety personnel and ask that you keep them safe. There's so much that goes on the streets out there anymore, dear Lord. Just please watch over them. Please be with our health officers and those serving in the healthcare field and keep them safe and going and their spirits high in this pandemic. We just pray that these vaccines are working, that everyone's getting their accesses, that it's something that's on the horizon that's soon going to be over. And dear Lord, we just pray for those who need you in whatever way, mentally, spiritually, whatever. We just pray that you be with us all. Thank you for this opportunity to serve Morgan County and help us to make the best we can be. Amen.
Amen. Well, again, thank you all for being here. We do call the meeting to order. We have our meeting minutes from, looks like 2 meetings, December 22nd, 2020, and January 4th, 2021. I assume everyone has received those minutes and had an opportunity to read over them. I look for a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
Madam Chairman, so moved.
Sprinkle.
Have a first. Do you have a first and a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We have a pretty thick agenda this evening, but don't be alarmed. A lot of it is to do with our health fund, and we are actually going to, for one meeting, going to kind of come back to that instead of starting with that this evening because Dan has some things to go over with us on that. So I think we will move. Is the sheriff here? Yes.
It's here.
The sheriff is on our second page in regard to, no, that was health insurance also. Never mind. On here for something else.
Yeah, he's on the second page.
Yeah, but it's still part of health insurance, so.
Well, he's done. Yep, I'm sorry.
Okay. So we have our clerk who would like to address us in regard to funding for a contractual agreement, correct, Stephanie?
Correct. Normally, the $12,000 for Microvote, which is an annual maintenance fee, comes out of the IT department. And I was told this year to put it in my budget, so I started out with 25. The 12 got cut, so I'm down to 13, which I still have to pay NOE, which is our poll pad. We still have a contract we have to pay yearly with them. So I don't know if you all were thinking that Joel had the 12, but that's something that we do have to pay every year. And normally I don't pay it. It does come out of his.
Yeah, and I know that has come up in the past, and we probably do need to have some clarification on that in the budget time of whose budget. Does it come out of the clerk's budget or whatever department's budget, or does that need to be coming out of the
Well,
IT budget?
we went into this, the budget session for this year's budgets with the direction that Josh and with, in IT, the direction being that the IT expenses that were for the overall system and the operation of the system and the various hardware needs and software needs for that would be in the IT budget. But then, if any office needed hardware above and beyond those basic, hardware that was provided to the office and departments, then that would be out of each office and department budget. And if there were any software needs that are specific just to that particular operation of that office or department, then that would be paid from those offices and departments, and i.e. the election software would be out of the election budget. My office, the software for the property tax and the financial system would be paid from my budget. That's different from years past. Years past, pretty much anything in the IT area, expenses and budgeting was all in the IT department, but it was decided that, or at least it was requested, that this year that we would do it differently and under those broad guidelines.
Communicated to the department heads? Before, was that communicated to the department heads before budgeting?
Yes.
So this was just an oversight for
This
this one
was an
department?
oversight.
For one,
This was
this
an
for just one
oversight.
department?
And I think it was an oversight from probably two standpoints. One, the fact that the budget philosophy, if you will, changed from previous years. And secondly, knowing that there would not be an election this year, was thinking that
Right.
the expense in that election budget could be reduced, and it was reduced far beyond what it could be because there is an ongoing contract that must be paid.
Right.
Is that
Right,
correct,
that is
sir?
correct. Yep.
But yeah, you're right, Kim, there is a change in this year's budget compared to previous years.
Compared to previous years,
As far
yeah.
as budgeting for different software.
If there'd be no questions, I'll make a motion that we approve $12,000 from the county general fund into 1,000.361.00.000.0062 contractual services.
I have a motion.
Kelly Akala will second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Next one I can address, the next one that's non-group health insurance related. That's the circuit court jury administrator. The jury administrator position has been in the past a position that is in the Superior Court 1 budget. And for 2021, the jury administrator position is now in the circuit court budget and not in the Superior Court 1 budget. At budget time, we did not know that. We did not know that was a decision that had been made. So now, it's not adding a position, it's just that the position has been changed, or it's no longer under the Superior Court 1, but it's now under Circuit Court. So we need additional money because the jury administrator is paid a little bit more than the first deputy position in this, and so the salary ordinance reflects the jury administrator in the circuit court, but the funding's not there. We need to get the funding there, and there's a offset, if you will, for this additional. There is an appropriation reduction in the Superior Court 1 budget of the same amount, so that we're actually just more or less transferring money, but we can't do a transfer. We have to do appropriation and appropriation reduction.
Can we make it one motion?
Yes.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to reduce Superior Court 1 by $176 for the first deputy and increase Circuit Court by $176 for jury administrator.
So moved. Kelly Akala.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Jason Maxwell will second that.
Those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Passes 6-0.
I'll address the next additional in probation department. If you recall back at budget time, we were having the budget, the council, we were all having trouble with finding funding for the probation officers that of the various funds that the probation department is budgeted from. There was, in this supplemental adult probation, there wasn't sufficient money to fund all of the probation officers' positions that they were requesting out of that budget. So there had to be some shuffling and reducing of positions and budgeted amounts. And in all that shuffle, while I thought I was on top of it and we had it all covered, and I still thought it until it was proven to me at the first payroll that we weren't short, but we are short having, being able to fund one probation officer in the general fund. It's not an addition of any total number of probation officers. It's just a matter that we're now funding one more position in the general fund and one less position in the supplemental adult probation fund. And the salary ordinance reflects the correct number of probation officers by fund, but budget doesn't. And this is to get the budget caught
Just to
up.
clear it up. So we're looking for a motion for an additional appropriation for the probation department in the amount of $55,300.
Chip Keller will make the motion to approve that amount.
Thank you, Chip. Do we have a second?
Vicki Kivett will make that second.
We have a first and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. The motion carries 6-0.
And I'll address the next one. There's a repeating theme here to tonight's meeting. It's called the budget cleanup meeting. What happened here in the solid waste department budget is that with the previous director last year, his payout at time that he retired, his payout, it was an oversight. We should have had an additional at the end of 2020 to cover the probation, his payout, but it wasn't done. And so there wasn't enough money left in the budget in 2020 to encumber to pay the current director for the days that were worked in 2020 that we encumbered over into 2021. So we had to use $1,800 of the current year appropriation to pay for those 9 days from 2020 that we had to rob in order to pay him that. And we ended the year, unfortunately, we ended the year in a negative in that appropriation.
We need to clean that up.
Well, we can't clean that up, but we
But we
have to
can-
clean up 2021 or else
Right.
we'll end up a negative at the end of 2021.
Okay. So we're looking for an additional in the amount of $1,800 in solid waste.
Troy Sprinkle, I'll make that motion.
Jason Maxwell will second that.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Pose same sign.
Abstain.
So we have 5 and 1 abstention.
Now you get a reprieve from listening to me and you get to listen to Stephanie.
Stephanie, I think you're up again for the Equipment Campaign Finance Enforcement Fund.
Yeah, so IT was down, and we were having an issue with the scanner, which those scanners are at least 10 years old. I'm betting they're like 12 to 14 years old. I said, well, how much would it be to get 3 new ones? And Joel found me a quote for $1,047 to replace all 3 scanners in the office. Indiana code says that I can use the money in the campaign finance enforcement account to invest in, I can't see without my glasses on.
You want my glasses?
Technology to, hang on a minute. The account should be a measurement, okay. Creating and operating a campaign finance computer system including investing in technology to expand the capabilities. So the money we have in that fund is from where we have fined people for campaign finance enforcement issues, and it has sat there for many years. I think there's either $1,500 or $1,800 in that account. So I thought this would be a good time to maybe use some of that, since we scan all those nice little reports that you all send us and email those off to different places. People have requested them.
Okay. So we have a request for $1,047 from the equipment fund.
Kelly Acala will make the motion for $1,047 from the equipment fund for, under Campaign Finance Enforcement Fund.
Troy Sprinkle, second.
We have a first and a second motion. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Would you like to go back up to the overtime before we start on the health? Yeah. At the top of our agenda this evening is overtime in the auditor's office, and Dan had prepared for us why that's needed and kind of how it's come about. I hope all of us have had time to read that in our packet, but I'll give Dan a moment to kind of go over that as well.
Well, we just, as I addressed in my memo to the council, we put to the back burner for a few years now, going through our records, determining which records we need to keep, which ones we need to destroy, which ones we need to store. And quite honestly, we just can't find the time during the day to do that. And my staff already works, their standard hours are 40 hours a week. So any time they spend above and beyond that goes into overtime. And I have staff members that have accumulated comp time and are either at or near comp time limits. And so, and that comp time is kind of counterproductive in the fact that, you know, they're working this extra hours because they got more work to get done, and then get done in their normal week. And so to think that they can take time off just can't happen. And so I need some money. This is purely an estimate. I mean, I'm gonna be the one that's determining, you know, whether or not it's needed for them to work the extra hours and the amount of time they'll work. But plus the fact that I have those that are at that limit or almost at the limit. You know, they're all stressed out that they got more to get done, and they, you know, it's just we need to do this because we're busting at the seams with our records.
Dan, I have one question. Going forward, since you said you put this off for several years, is it more in budget time, not that we don't need to do this right now too, but that you budget so much overtime each year because you know that the time that you have with your employees is maxed at that 40 hours and that you need to be able to have some overtime each year?
I'm sorry, you really have hard to hear.
Is that something you should?
Is that something that you need to budget each year, overtime, just for an ongoing certain amount that you think, okay, we're gonna need so many hours of overtime each year to handle records?
Right, and if you would approve this, which I hope you do, this will give me a basis to determine what I do need to budget for each year.
Okay.
Because it has taken you quite
Good
some time
question.
to get to this.
Oh, goodness,
Yes.
probably since I started as auditor.
So we're looking at, were there any further questions? I'm sorry, before I move on. So we're looking at an additional appropriation of $5,000 for overtime for the auditor's office.
Vicki Kivett makes that motion that we approve the overtime request as presented.
I'll second, Chip.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? If not, I'll take a vote. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. 6-0. Okay. Mr. Dan, before we got to that group health, we can, yes. If you'll jump on over to, oh, let's do the health department. Sorry, we're jumping around a little bit this evening, folks, but it'll just help. Hello, Jeannie. I'm sure you've been busy, and we appreciate all that you're doing.
Thank you. Yes, I don't know which you want me to start with. We've been given a state grant called for COVID immunization. So do you want me to start with that one first?
Sure.
Okay. It's,
Is that the 80,640?
yes,
Okay.
yes. And we've appropriated it just out for salaries and FICA.
It's this one here.
Okay, so that one you've looked at for salaries and FICA. And then, I don't know if now is the time to ask about this, and this may be a Steve question when we kind of get to it. And you two, I know, have worked together on this. I did have some questions on the contract with Maxim. It was my understanding that we weren't going to use Maxim,
Well,
but then
we
did?
were obligated to them to begin with. Fortunately, I guess I would say, they didn't really supply the help that we needed.
That was
So
my-
we kept one young lady for 2 weeks, and I've got the invoice for that upstairs. It's like a couple $1,000s. So I probably, if needed, I probably will come back at a later time and have that reappropriated into salaries. Hopefully, we won't need it, but, you know, at this time, I don't know where we're at. So, but yeah, Maxim is gone.
Okay.
We will not be utilizing them any further.
Okay, thank you.
What, was Maxim the outside service we were going to use to do the
Yeah,
immunizations?
it was a contractual.
And instead, we're
So-
just using in-house now?
Well, yeah, in-house, yes, that's correct.
And nurses that were, that had come forth and said they were willing to
Yeah.
work and.
Actually, they've been brought on as part-timers.
Local.
And, yeah.
So they were able to utilize local nurses and retired nurses and things, as I understand it,
Yes,
rather
that is
than-
correct. And we also are
nurses.
using EMTs that are currently on county payroll, and so.
Verification.
Now, one question I did have on as they're rolling out more test sites or vaccination sites, I guess I should say, I see where Kroger and I think CVS and things are going to start giving those vaccinations as well.
I
Do you-
believe that's
Do you
correct.
still foresee us being there up until July?
Well, we don't really know for sure. We're hoping not. And as soon as we can come back, you know, into our department and just do them, you know, through a clinic there, then that's what we intend to do. But
How will you
right
know?
now, they're, like, we've received 800 doses just all of a sudden this week.
And
And-
questions I've been asked this week, like they call me like I know, why are we not getting the amount of vaccinations that other counties are, and how is that decided?
Well, it depends on our county size, and so, do you have
Want me to get
something?
this? It is based on the county size. And I don't know what their magic formula is. I know I made a phone call earlier last week asking that question at a conversation Vicki and I was having. And I was told, no, 500 is all we're going to get, and then 2 hours later, we're getting 800. So your guess is as good as mine.
Like 500 for what?
500 a week.
A week?
A week, so we have to allocate that over a period of time. We can do far more vaccines than we're doing now, but we do not have the doses to do it. So they coordinate our appointment times with the number of vaccines we have. So we were doing 500, and then we found out we were supposed to hold some of that back for the second doses, which was not relayed. So we got a supplement on that as well, so we're not in a pickle with it. But this week, we got 800, and like I said, I made a phone call, talked to the lady.
She said 500 is all we could count off right now, then 2 hours later, we had 800 coming. So,
Reason, mhm,
the right hand's not talking to the left hand
yeah.
at the health department, so.
Well, I'm hearing nothing but good things
Right.
there. at
State
the-
health department. Ouch.
Hey, you got punched pretty good there. I hear nothing but good things about how it's handled, how fast they've gotten through, and just how professional it's been. So you guys have done very well. You've stepped up to the plate, and we appreciate that. You
Well,
made our-
thank you.
made
It's
our
a
county
team
look
effort.
good.
It's a team effort, and I think we've hit our rhythm now, so it's going much smoother. With that being said, I'm going to shut up, go sit down, let Jean handle this.
Well, tell me this,
go ahead.
with your fluctuation of shipments, how do you know, like, well, like, I guess when you go on your weeks out to getting an appointment, how do you know you're gonna have enough vaccine 8 weeks out or whatever to set appointments this week?
They tell us what we got coming, and we will set a schedule 2 weeks at a time. And the Indiana Department of Health will, in their computer, because they do the Zoltec is what it's called, and they're the one that sets the appointments. We tell them we want to be open this time, here's the number of vaccinators we gotta have, and how many registers, and Michelle, God love her, I wouldn't want this job, save my soul. She has like a spreadsheet that they provided that she puts down, here's how many doses we gotten, here's how many appointments we're gonna do, and what day we're gonna do them, and then she submits it to the state. The state then enters it into their Zoltec system, which allows people to go in and set their appointments. Now, I'm also going to give you a heads up, just to be completely honest, 'cause starting next week, 70% of our appointments are going to be for revaccinations. So only 30% will be new.
Okay.
And until we start getting more doses, that's just the way it's going to be.
And
But go ahead.
how long can you store this? Free-
In the
keep it
frozen state, we can keep it up indefinitely, thawed out or refrigerated, it's 30. And then once we take the vials out, and we got a refrigerator down there, so it stays refrigerated, it's good for 6 hours, but we don't pull them until we need them.
You said you were planning on doing this through July. Like, how will you know when you're close to being done or you've done enough immunizations? What's your
You know
metric?
what, sir, that's a good question. The state told us plan on July 31st, and that's what we've done. I will say, if you do the math, at 800 doses a week, we'll be doing this for roughly 70-some weeks. So there has to be some other things coming down the line. I firmly believe that when the Johnson & Johnson vaccine comes out, that's a one and done. And that's going to make it more available and easier for the pharmacies to get involved, doctors' offices to get involved, and begin to eliminate some of that stress. But right now, with everything we're doing, we have to keep track of the first shot, the second shot, who got what vaccine. And I think that's just a little too much for the pharmacies and whatnot to be involved in. So I think they're very gun shy until the one and done comes out. But like Gene said, we did our first 200 day today with no problems, a little bit busier than what it has been, but it went pretty smooth. Now, are there any questions so I get out Gene's way?
A lot of people are going to other counties. Are you seeing people coming here from other counties coming here?
Yeah, we did. We had a couple that was a little late today because they came from Bloomington and ran into a traffic problem. So they're coming from Bloomington. I've talked to them from Hendricks County. In our conversation that we had about Brown County's people just are not receiving the vaccine like our county is. So there's just more appointments available down there because of that. They're operating right out of their clinic, out of their health department. So it's not a big stream.
That's all my questions.
Anybody else?
Anybody
Going
else have any
once?
questions for Steve or Jeannie?
Well, Jean's going to handle the rest of this. She's the boss.
Job well done, though.
Thank you. So Jeannie, you're here for the COVID immunization state grant fund in the amount of $80,640.
That's correct.
So we have a request for that funding.
I'll make a motion to approve the $80,640.
Kelly Akala will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes 6-0.
Okay, and then do you want me to do the other one too?
Sure, go right
Okay.
ahead.
The rainy day fund, Steve got us, got you all, was talking, I guess, at the last council meeting, and you all kind of preliminarily said that you could give us $125,000 for this clinic. I've worked up a budget, and it's $4,000 more. So, but we had to work in perf in there for our employees that are on perf, so we had to work that in there. So that's what I come up with, $129,000.
Now, when you say you're utilizing EMS service,
We are.
are you utilizing them as they are on duty, or is this
No, this
EMS
is,
employees that are being utilized
besides
at
what-
other times when they're not on duty?
that's correct.
Okay.
It is, yeah, other times.
Okay,
So we are paying them some out of this payroll here.
I saw that. So is that where the 25,000 comes in the overtime?
That, and then our nurses and
Okay.
Steve have had a little bit of overtime due to being down there so much, yes.
Okay,
So if
We're
you,
only a 35-hour work week, the health department. So anything we work over that then would be overtime. So,
Well, I think that overtime wouldn't calculate till after 40 hours. The first, from 35.
But it's not a time.
well, yeah,
Okay,
it's,
right, that's what I mean. But there wouldn't be time and a half until you hit 40 hours.
right, that is correct.
Right.
Out for the Maxim contract, is that correct? It says 20,000, but I thought earlier you said, you'd stop that, and now
Well,
they're going to be.
yes, the Maxim contract is stopped. I do have a claim of an invoice that I have to pay out of it. And then if we're going to need it later, I'll probably have to come back and ask to have it transferred into some payroll at a later time.
so you have an invoice for how much,
I want to say it's like $2,100.
rather than the 20,000?
Pardon me?
Rather
The
than the
20,000
20,000?
Exactly, yeah. And then we had 2 nurses that worked, and Steve, I never have seen an invoice for them. Do you know anything? Yeah. Okay. The one invoice that I've received was for a clerical worker that worked 2 weeks. I have not seen anything. We had 2 different days, there was a nurse, they sent a nurse, and I haven't seen that invoice yet, but I'm sure it'll be coming.
I think Josh might have a little input on this as well, to clarify to the rest of the council.
I would just, I guess, ask you guys to consider this as a very tentative budget based on limited information. When Steve looked at the numbers for the full 6 months, it would be significantly more than what we have here. So I would hesitate in cutting the Maxim part out, because we're going to have to reallocate that to our nurses, not at the same rate we were going to have to pay Maxim. But as an example, we got our first electric bill today. We budgeted $1,000 a month for utilities, and the electric alone ate that up. And so I would say there's a good possibility, if things go well, we could get there with this budget, but I wouldn't slash it too much, or Jeannie might be back.
Yeah, I don't think it was much of a, I don't think we were looking at it as slashing it, just kind of getting more of a clarification of it. So,
So as-
Maxim won't be back, so we're,
yeah, but that fund will still be utilized elsewhere, those funds will be.
Yes. Did you have another question, Vicki?
On the EMTs, if they were, what's their hours out there, 40?
No, they go over 40. They're 24-hour shifts. So,
So if they hit 40, or if they hit over 40,
whatever hours they work outside of their job at EMS is gonna be overtime,
Great overtime.
because they're already at
Which
overtime.
That was my
I believe is
question.
time and a half, yeah.
Yeah,
But it's still considerably less than what we were gonna pay maximum people,
Yeah.
so.
Like $60
They're-
an hour.
You know, whatever hours they work will be at time and a half.
sure,
Okay.
okay, that was my question.
And Donnie's been sending me over their timesheet when payroll, on payroll day, so we get that on the,
So you're looking, out of rainy day fund, the total of the 129,000 today, is that correct?
that's correct.
So we're looking for a motion for the health department of 129,000 even, out of the rainy day fund to fund the, vaccine clinic.
Kelly O'Connell will make that motion.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Motion and second. Any other conversation on that subject? If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thanks again for your hard work. Want to do that motor vehicle highway?
Highways is one in line with-
So we'll leave that alone. So where are we at? Point me where the,
Let's just do these transfers.
Okay.
So we got-
we're going to move along to our transfers before we come back to the health portion of it. So, looks like the sheriff, you do get to come up and talk to us this evening. Thankfully, it's a transfer.
But it's only February.
You'll get used to that comedy, Chip.
He hadn't shot us yet.
What's that, Vicki?
Hadn't shot us yet.
No.
For
I'd like to
her comment.
compliment you on your nice nameplates there.
Courtesy of Brian Collier.
Yeah.
Our
Thank you,
out-
Brian Collier.
It's his
Our out-
parting gift.
Yes, our outgoing chairman.
Good to
got
see
those
mine.
for us.
Yeah, that's, Council, when I come before you, it's very simple. I'm just requesting to transfer $6,700 from, you see the number there, long print. Long-term disability is what the fund was called. After consultation with Dan, we decided that it should move to a new line item, which is the health and wellness services. Same thing it's going to be used for, but it's a new line item that we wanted to move it to and have it in there.
I think we had done that at the end of the year last year, and then this is doing it for this year.
Correct,
I'm
yes.
familiar. So we have a request for a transfer of $6,700 from long-term disability to health and wellness. Look for a motion.
A motion to approve that, Chip?
Troy, I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you, Council. Appreciate it.
Got one more done.
Mm-hmm. Emergency Medical Services Fund. There's a transfer on that on, Donnie, is that you? Good evening.
How y'all doing?
We're good.
Good. This is just to kind of sew up what we had already presented to you with the EDO proposal. The vehicle that was in that has been ordered. We just need to transfer the $7,000 for the lease payment from the ALS equipment to a new line item for that leased vehicle.
So the additional line item's been created, correct, Dan?
That transfer will create.
Okay. So emergency medical services, we have a request of $7,000 from advanced life support equipment to vehicle lease rental. 7,000 even. And that will create that line item as well with that transfer.
Yes, ma'am.
I look for a motion.
Troy Sprinkle, I'll make that motion.
Have a motion, do we have a second?
Jason Maxwell seconds.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Donnie.
So I misspoke a moment ago when I said the salary ordinance amendments for the Superior and Circuit Court changes and and you had already acted on those. And the other business should see there's salary ordinance amendments. This is to put the salary ordinance consistent with the reality of the Circuit Court now has the jury administrator position, and Superior Court changes from jury administrator to first deputy. Also, another listed there is the EMS, EMT, paramedics, and duty officers. This is just housekeeping. When you approve the EMS duty officers, we did not have a classification for those positions from our benefits or our human resources consultant list. Now we do have, and so I'm filling in that gap in the salary ordinance. Those positions are classified as civilian poll 6 positions, and that's what the other salary ordinance amendment is for. No changes in pay or anything other than just filling in the gap of the classification.
So there'll be some documents coming your way. Chip, I think you've already been notified that you are the keeper of the paperwork.
Will do.
And
Now we get to the health insurance.
if there was something else before that.
Oh, yes, we have one other item
Yes,
that's not on your agenda, that came in at the last minute.
right.
There is an ordinance that needs to be acted on to authorize Kenny Hale as a purchasing agent for the county to purchase real estate parcels under a FEMA grant. We have a FEMA grant that's secured to purchase the remaining homes in the Wildwood subdivision up on Everett Road.
Willowbrook Drive, Willowbrook Drive?
What did I say? Willowbrook.
You said Wild something.
Okay, Willowbrook Drive, there were some homes in there that were not purchased previously through a FEMA grant that were in the floodplain, and now there is money to purchase those. There's an ordinance that's been drafted to authorize Kenny as the purchasing agent to do those purchases.
Need to
There's a
make it
copy
on.
here for
Okay.
you.
There's a copy for each of us? Okay, so take that and pass one down.
We're going to
Dan,
discuss this,
Can I
right?
ask a question? Are we required to vote on those salary ordinance amendments? Sending them down, but I don't think we voted.
No, we did. We need a motion on those.
Vicky Gibbet makes a motion that we approve the salary ordinance amendments as presented.
Kelly Akala will second.
Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion on the salary amendments? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Thank you, Kelly, for catching that. So this ordinance is only as a purchasing real estate for this instance, correct?
Correct.
Kenny can't be out buying all kinds of property for us.
Jim.
Next.
Right, this is just for the first one. I am working with Jim, we're gonna get you another ordinance to come back. Trying to get what's in the grant is 15 homes. I'm assume there's probably gonna be 2 or 3 holdouts. So we're gonna go ahead and just put all of them in there. If I'm not able to purchase them, that's gonna be all right, and it don't matter. Jim said, I have already talked to Homeland Security. We're gonna do a affidavit on duplication of benefits on this home, and we will get it closed this week. There's another one, I was hoping to get done this week. It'll probably be next week, though, to be honest. But I'm gonna try to get about 5 or 6 of these bought in the next week or so. I've
Good
already
try.
had a meeting with all of them, so. It's been a long time coming for these folks, so, thank you.
Thank you.
So how will he pay for it? Okay.
Okay, I don't know if everybody's had a chance to kind of read that over. Do you have any questions, any discussion over it? Feel free.
I have a question, just, I have relatives that live out there on that street, so I will abstain, I assume, or,
You can do that.
okay.
So ordinance number 2021-1 is an ordinance authorizing Board of Commissioners to purchase certain real estate located in Martinsville, Morgan County, Indiana, and making Kenny Hale the person that will be in charge of that. So we have a motion to pass ordinance number 2021. Looking for a motion.
Vicky Kivett makes said motion.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Troy Sprinkle, second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Chip Keller abstains.
Okay. We have 5 ayes and 1 abstention. Motion passes.
501.
Yes, 501. Yeah, sorry about that.
Got one thing. Is there any way we could possibly get this passed on, suspend the second reading of this ordinance? Because usually you do 2 ordinances. If there's any way I could get this so we could go ahead and still purchase.
This is really just the first reading of this
Right,
ordinance.
it's just the first reading that if you wanted to have the motion. Waive the second reading, it can pass on the first motion.
Okay. Does anyone have issue with it going through a second reading, or?
What's the code say? Is there a code that addresses it? Indiana code?
Do you need to see it, Jim?
If it's unanimous, you can, if it was the question regarding the first and second reading issue with unanimous, you can waive the second reading and adopt it this evening. That's what your question was.
Thank you. Did you have something, Mr. Collier?
Hi, Brian Collier.
Who?
Yes. Point of order, 2 points. First point, if Chip's on disclose that he has people living on the street as big as his family is, he should probably disclose that he's got family members living on just about every street in this county. And 2, this is what Kenny has done for us a couple times in the past on these floods. It's the timing why he's asking for the suspension of the second reading.
Okay.
But we have entrusted him in the past to do this. It's really above and beyond all the footwork that he does. I won't psychoanalyze why he does it, but it's a huge help, and it's saved us from getting in trouble from FEMA and flood insurance and whatnot. So he's done it a couple times, so I entrust him to do it this time correctly also. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do we need to rescind our motions?
No, I think we've approved the first reading of it. I think
Okay.
we now need to vote to
The second
waive the
reading?
second reading. All those in favor of waiving the second reading? Waiving the second reading.
You need a motion to waive the second reading and a
Yes.
second.
So we need a motion to waive the second reading of the motion.
Troy Sprinkle, go ahead, Vicky.
No, go ahead.
Troy Sprinkle, I'll make that motion.
Vicky Kivett seconds.
So we have, again, 5 to 0 to 1. 1 abstention. Okay. now we
Made the
need
motion,
to
do we have to vote on that?
pass the second reading.
Kim, we made the motion and we second it. Don't we have to vote on the waiving of the second?
Yes,
Okay.
that's what I was getting ready to ask.
She knows what she's doing.
We did.
We just don't know what she's doing. Show of hands. Show of
Yes.
hands, Kim. All in favor?
All in favor of the second reading being passed this evening as well of ordinance 2021-1, raise your hand. All those in favor? We have
Chip Keller
5
abstains.
to 0 to 1, one abstention. Is there anything further needed on that, Deb?
You're big, Kimmy. We'll go to Bynum's when this is over.
All right. Oh, it gets serious when he goes to the podium.
Oh, no.
So I
Yeah,
can
your
take
sleeping
this thing
bags.
off, take this thing off, and so we're gonna talk about the group health insurance, the several different additional appropriation requests that are before you. I've heard through the grapevine, if you will, there's some confusion about this. First of all, I included in the packet a worksheet of where I calculated this additional for tonight. Does anybody need a copy of that before I start?
Share mine with you, Vic.
I think confusion came about because of the fact that it's so close to when you acted on another additional appropriation for group health. You have this one before you, and thinking that I've heard that some thought that what you did in the first meeting in December with the additional appropriation that you approved of the tune of around $1.6 million, or maybe exactly that, that took care of this year. That additional appropriation had nothing to do with this year. That additional was an additional to, let me back up a bit. And I'd send an email later that hopefully helped clear up things, or maybe it caused even more confusion. But last year, the transfers from the various budgets into the group health fund had already occurred at the time you did the additional on December the 7th. So that additional on December 7th wasn't putting any more money in the group health fund than what I had told you that night at that meeting, that there was $1.6 million balance in the group health fund. That 1.6 million additional that you did that night didn't increase that, because that money had already been transferred in. What you were doing on December 7th, you were cleaning up the budgets. All the various budgets had negative appropriation balances, and you were approving an additional appropriations to clean up those negative additionals. If you had chose to not approve that additional, then I would have had no choice but to reverse all those transfers to be made, because I couldn't have ended up the budgets being negative, and the group health fund would have been pretty close to zero balance. So I don't know if that helps or not. But the thing that we're doing here differently tonight is, rather than clean up the additionals at the year end, because the appropriations are negative, I was able to, thanks to our new financial system, I was able to do projections out to determine where we're going to be at, or an estimation of where we're going to be at the end of the year, and with all the money to be spent from the various budgets to be put into the group health fund, and a projection of what those appropriation balances are going to look like at the end of the year. And that's what I did with this worksheet, is I took the first payroll in January, and I used that as my basis to project out for all the funds how much is going to be spent in each of the budgets, and compared those expenditures to what's been budgeted, and determined how much we were going to be short. If you recall, when I talked to you at the December 7th meeting, I did mention that we were going to have to do what you did at the December 7th meeting again in 2021, because when the 2021 budget was approved, we didn't have a good basis to estimate what the 2021 budget was going to be, and we used the 2020 appropriations, which were short of what they needed to be, and did a increase to that. But as it turned out, the reality was the increase wasn't enough. The thing that occurred differently from 2019 to 2020 that got us in this position of kind of going along blindly was, up until 2020, the amount of money that was used as what we call a premium equivalent, that we used as the basis to determine how much money to charge each of the budgets and to transfer from each of the budgets into the group health fund, that hadn't been updated for years. And it had gradually fallen behind where it needed to be. And when the health board took a look at that, then the decision was made, and with the help of our new benefits consultant, Apex, we came up with what a premium equivalent should be in order to fund the expected health claims. And we had three levels that we were looking at. And we were looking at what was called the expected claims level. That's kind of the best guess of where the claims are going to be. And we had one that was the maximum possible experience, or worst case scenario, if you will, with claims. And then we had a midpoint. And those were the three levels we looked at. Well, when we looked at the expected claims level premium equivalent, what we had been transferring in to the fund from our different budgets wasn't even close to that level. So we knew that we needed to get up to expected claims, because over the years, the balance in the health fund had slowly been eroding away. At one point, it was up over $2 million, close to 2.5 at one time, and over time, it had started eroding away down to about $1.5 million. And it was going to go even further if we didn't do something. So that's what the health board did, or the group insurance board did. So now we're catching all this up to get, first of all, we're getting the group health fund being fairly stable at that $1.6 million balance. That's a balance that, as a group insurance trust board, we don't really want to go much below that, just because you never know when that catastrophic situations might occur. Even though we do have what's called stop loss coverage that limits our claims exposure. And we've been fortunate to be able to purchase that insurance while it's becoming harder to do. We're still able to purchase it. So we're in a better position than some other counties. The auditors I talk to, and they say, well, that's good for you. We can't even buy stop loss coverage. But we have stop loss coverage. The Insurance Trust Board did change that stop loss coverage a little bit, and our stop loss carrier did carve out 3 claims, or three individuals where they're going to limit the amount that they will pay on stop loss, only because there's an anticipation that there could be more, some more larger claims in 2021. But anyway, having said all that, so this worksheet is my projection of where we need to be. So the difference between what you're doing, or what I'm proposing that you do tonight, compared to what you did on December the 7th, is that you're addressing this additional appropriation up front rather than on the back end. And that's the way we should be budgeting. And secondly, when we get to budget time for 2022 budget, when we look at our first 6 months, experience and what our budget is for this first 6 months, we're gonna have a better basis to be estimating and predicting what needs to be budgeted for 2022 for group health insurance. There's no way of getting around, it's a staggering number. There's no way to escape that, except that you could decide, well, we're not going to fully fund at the expected claims level those claims, and we're gonna roll the dice and run the risk that our group health fund is going to get down below to a dangerous level, that a catastrophic occurrences could really hurt us bad. That's my selling point there. But as you look at this worksheet, you'll see that based on our first payroll in January, the estimated amount of group health and cost for the county is going to be at the neighborhood of $3.7 million. There's a column labeled estimated 2021 expenditure. The amount that was budgeted for 2021 was almost $3.1 million. So tonight, the sum total of the various different additionals in the different funds totals to that $600,000 or it's exactly the $619,000 for tonight. I've done a couple more, if you don't care, if you don't mind, if I move on here to, there's a couple more things I'd like for you to take a look at. I didn't count these.
Okay.
These are two-sided reports.
Okay, so we each just get one. All right.
Dan, while that's being passed out, the additional appropriation is the 667.5 or the 619?
619. Oh, the additional is 667,000.
Right.
I rounded up.
That's just a cushion, little bit of cushion, is that? From the budget deficit column, it's just you've,
I took the budget deficit column and I rounded those up to even dollars.
I got you.
Yes.
Okay.
Thanks, Chip, I did misspeak. Yeah, the additional appropriations tonight do sum to the $667,500, that rounded number. Because all these things are estimates.
Right.
And I hope that I'm not back here in November, December, red face and say, boy, I missed it, we got to do another 100, 150, whatever, but
Hope we're in great shape.
you never know.
So you said that in the first 6 months of the year will give us better numbers that we'll calculate at budget time?
When we do budgets, we take a look at the first 6 months.
Right.
Budget balances and the expenditure experience, and typically we use that to project out for the next 6 months and for the next year.
So it's still possible that we may need to do this next year too. It just may be a smaller number, hopefully, possibly.
Yes, much smaller number.
Okay.
Yes, and hopefully we don't have to do it again.
Right.
I don't want to explain this more.
No.
But I prepared a couple statements. First one, you'll find on one side of this handout, it's labeled Group Health Insurance Fund 2020 statement. I thought that the council would like to see exactly the financial activity for the Group Health Insurance Fund. And this statement is that. It shows what we began the year in 2020. As a cash balance, we had almost $1.2 million cash balance beginning the year. And then you'll see that we have revenue going into this fund is a combination of the employee contributions. These are the amounts that we deduct from employees' paychecks, and we transfer or deposit into the group health fund. The other contribution that you're very familiar with is the county share or the employer contribution. And then we have other revenues, that stop-loss insurance I was mentioning earlier. Once a claim or claims reach that stop-loss threshold, then the stop-loss insurance will pay to the county to reimburse the county for the amount that they paid that is covered by the stop loss. And so for 2020, we received $183,244.74. Those claims are typically from the year before, and sometimes in some instances even further back. But so those would have been 2019 claims that once they get through all the processing of paying a claim, then the determination on the stop loss is made. The RX rebates, when we began the year, our health insurance coverage on the crazy game of pharmacies and prescriptions and all, and first you pay money and then you get money back, and it's a crazy circle, I think. But initially, the insurance board, when we negotiated the contract with United Healthcare, and for the pharmacy portion or prescription drug portion of that coverage, the board had made the decision to receive the discounts on pharmacy costs up front at the point of sale. And so whenever one of the employees then gets a prescription filled, the employee will receive a reduced price, and also the county will pay a reduced portion of that. Well, whenever that kicked off, I guess most of their clients don't choose that route. They like to get those rebates. They like to see that check. We wanted the discounts to occur at the point of sale. So we began the year with that not happening, and we caught that. It was caught real quickly, but before it was caught, there were some of these RX rebates that came back in the form of money back to the county. After that point, the employees and the county receive a discount as you purchase those prescriptions. And then there was some other miscellaneous revenue. So the total revenue coming into the group health fund in 2020 was $4,175,948. The expenses against that, the health claims, since we are partially self-insured group health, or our health plan is we're self-insured, and so the claims are paid by our third-party administrator, and then they charge us for this, and we pay the third-party administrator for the claims as they're paid. So that dollar amount to 2.5 or almost $2.6 million, those were the health claims paid and the pharmacy cost for 2020. The third-party administrator fees and stop-loss coverage, that $782,511. The lion's share of that $782,511 is the stop-loss coverage. It's about 90% of that is stop-loss coverage. The other portion is what we pay UMR. UMR is the third-party administrator group for United Healthcare. What UMR's role is, they're the ones that review the claims that are filed and determine the amount to pay on those claims, and they administer that and do that for us. Our dental and vision insurance and all the other insurances listed there, those are actually pure insurances where a premium is paid and insurance coverage is provided by the dental and the vision and the life insurance. And then the short-term disability and long-term disability, all of those are pure insurance in the traditional sense. It's only our health and our prescription expenses where we're self-insured and pay that. So all of those expenses totaled to almost $3.7 million. And so our balance did increase in 2020. So the decision to move towards the expected claims level for funding did help improve the bottom line on our health fund. And we're actually at what we'd like to see as a targeted balance. So, but anyway, I thought this would be something that you would like to see, how that works.
Thank you.
Do you know off the top of your head how the health claims have trended over the last 2 or 3 years? Is this stable? Has it gone
Pretty
up?
steady.
Steady, okay.
Pretty steady at that level. I think one of the stabilizing factors, and I keep going back to this, is that stop loss, where we don't see those sudden spikes, because believe me, over the last 3 years, 4, we've had some big claims, and stop loss has really saved us.
So it's money well spent.
But we're also getting to the point where it's getting difficult. And fortunately, the provider for our stop loss is staying with us. Our benefits consultant had a very difficult time finding anyone other than our Tokyo Marine who has our stop loss policy. Hard time finding anyone else interested in really giving us a quote.
So our loss ratios weren't in a range that we were a candidate for that, or one that they were all striving to have?
We're not one that they're coming knocking on our door.
Yeah.
But we're still in the position where we can buy it. But this year, we had, for the first time for the last few years, Ryan's back there, where we actually had some claims carved out, lasered, or all those terminology they like to use, but the flip side of this is, I thought also, just for my curiosity, and I thought maybe you would like to see, get a good idea of what is our, I call it the comprehensive employee benefits costs. On the flip side of this is taking into account all those expenses that are incurred by the county in providing and administrating benefits for employees. And such things, of course, the first line, most obvious line, is what the, on this flip side here, the first line is the health, dental, vision, life, and disability coverage. That comes directly off of the previous report, where the employer's contribution for health insurance, that's the $3 million. Then in addition to that, we have an Activate clinic that's available to the employees to use that clinic, as opposed to going to a doctor and incurring a medical claim at the doctor. We pay a fee to the Activate clinic to be able to have their services for the employees. And also, some of the prescriptions that employees need can be provided at the Activate clinic. And also, if any of our employees need any sort of lab work done, they can go to the Activate clinic and have those lab work done. So we had a total cost in 2020 of $146,751 for the Activate clinic. There is an asterisk on that total, because for whatever reason, Activate did not get to us the fourth quarter invoice until late, and that invoice didn't get paid until January of 2021, and that invoice was for $40,106.
Just under 200,000.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
On the Activate clinic, it says here estimated 440 employees. Is the Activate clinic only for those that are taking the insurance for the county?
Those are for the employees and dependents that are covered by the county health insurance.
So but they are covered by the county health insurance. So
Right.
that's the total that's being covered, but not the number of employees that are taking the insurance?
Correct.
Gotcha.
That's the employees and their
Dependents.
spouse or or
Okay, thank you.
dependents. The next item, Apex Benefits Group, that is our benefits consultants, and their fee is divided between consulting services, and also they manage the wellness program for the county. And so their total cost was almost $62,999.96. Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy and Associates, that is our human resources consultant. And in 2020, the total fees paid to them was $62,999. No, wait a minute, yeah,
37.
wait a minute. I need my ruler. $37,389.85, excuse me. FMLA Source, that is a service utilized by the Human Resources Director for HMLA claims. Steele's Insurance and Financial, that is a vendor that's utilized by our Human Resources Director for open enrollment and insurance enrollments. Life Services EAP, that's the Employee Assistance Program that's provided, offered to the county employees. And then we have the Human Resources Director, and that total cost I have there includes payroll taxes, FICA and PERF, plus the salary. Then I went ahead and took a stab at projecting what 2021 might be, and I utilized that for the health insurance and dental. That is the amount that's, if you approve tonight's additional, that's the amount budgeted for group health insurance in 2021. The Activate services, as Kelly has pointed out, the 440 employees and dependents, that's their employees and dependents. The cost now is $36.22 each, and times 12 months. And then I did an estimation based on the last 7 quarters of RX claims and took the average, which is 2,700 at each times 4 for the year, and then the estimated labs at $5,400. The Apex benefits, their consulting fee and wellness program fees, don't expect those to change in 2021. The Wagner, Irwin, and Shealy, that's purely an estimate of $30,000. I don't believe or expect the fees paid to them will be as much in 2020 as they were in 2021, because in 2020 they were doing the revamping of the personnel policy and all of that. And I think that 30,000 is probably, hopefully, on the high side there. FMLA Source, their fee is $1,700 each quarter. Steele Insurance and Financials, their cost is $938 each quarter. And then UKG is a new item here. That is going to be the Human Resource Information System. Their estimated setup fees of $6,350, and the estimated monthly fees of $2,896 for each month, times 8 months, because the anticipated startup date is May 2021 for them. Then the EAP, the estimate is $864 each month, and then the Human Resources Director, including the payroll taxes, estimate is $75,868 for 2021. So the total projected or estimated dollars for 2021 is $4,096,457.
Dan, what's the UKG, the new software system? What's that going to help us do, or what's the benefit
Bree's
of that?
back there. She may be able to give us some guidance. Good job, Dan. Thanks for doing that.
The new system, UKG, is going to be comprised of several different components that we're going to be doing. Right now, with the auditor's office doing payroll, we're doing paper timesheets, and that's going to go away because we're going to be clocking in and going to be digitally providing a timesheet type of thing, so it's going to be hopefully a lot smoother. There'll be timestamps on everything. Employees will also be able to go in and request their time off. That is something that is kind of hard to keep track of right now, and so that should make all of that process a lot easier. It should make reporting easier. We're going to have permissions set for all department heads, elected officials, so they can go in and keep track of training, certifications. It's also going to allow us a place where everybody that's an employee of the county can go, and they can see the handbook, they can see this form, they can see who to contact for this, they can see where they check on their benefits. I'm probably forgetting a lot of things, but it's one of the things that I was tasked with when I was hired. It was part of my job description to come up with an HR information system that would help us hopefully make a lot of things easier. So we're in talks with them right now. Like discovery calls is what they call them, and so I've been providing them with a lot of forms, different documents that we use. And so it's going to be like a one-stop shop for all of our employees, and we'll be able to send them messages, and I think it's going to help a lot with communication.
How will each department clock in and clock out? They'll have a little fob or something in each office, or what?
Right now, in talks with the auditor's office, right now I think what we're going to do is they're going to be clocking in using their computer. We've got a few that are going to be placed at the highway or different places that need them, and they're going to be using a computer. There will probably be some instances where people will be using their phones, but I can't give you a percentage or anything right now because I haven't got to that part of it with them yet.
Not to interrupt, we had sent down that ordinance form and got a signature on it. Unfortunately, that was one-sided, I do believe. We're going to need to do it again, so disregard that one. I did not mean to interrupt you, Jerry, I'm sorry.
Put that one aside.
Is there any other questions regarding the new HR system?
Sounds great.
It does.
I'm really
Long
excited.
overdue, probably.
I don't know if you can tell or not, but it's going to make some of our jobs a lot easier, just being able to find who goes where and all of that good stuff.
We're so glad to have you.
Yes, I'm glad. I
Thank
know
you.
a lot has been thrown at you in your first year, but we sure appreciate you being here.
Thank you.
I appreciate what you did on this
Absolutely.
addition here. I kind of did the math at the very end of it, and I took that number of $4,096,547.60 and divided it by how many employees we roughly have. Because so many people say, we want a new employee and their salary is only $45,000 a year. That is not what all it is. And so I love the fact that Dan added this up, because when you add the benefits in, you're looking at an additional roughly $10,241 at least.
But that doesn't include FICA and PERS.
Exactly. So I just wanted to, I just like folks that in the audience, when you hear folks say, we want a new employee and it's only $45,000. That's not all it is. And so I just like to throw that out there because I have the microphone and I can.
Kim, I did the same thing, and that's one thing Commissioner Collier and I have in common, is we love to crunch numbers, and I did exactly what you just did. And I would love to kind of track this from year to year, but then also, is there any way to like compare it to other counties? I'd be curious to see how we just, compare to other counties, because that is, she's absolutely right, that's a big expense.
It is.
In the interest, hi, Brian Collier. And speaking on behalf of myself, not the commissioners as a whole, but Dan proves a point that there's some of us out there that enjoy watching paint dry. And two, I make jokes and make light of it. The numbers are kind of trended in a way in the last couple meetings, one in which I'm involved in, and then this one today, that you could cry. But a couple of things that are happening, that Dan did an excellent job, and I am so grateful to have someone like him who I can tease, but he still gets me the numbers to make me feel like I'm going in the right direction. To protect our employees, to protect our county. With that said, one of the things that I'd like to touch upon, being on the insurance trust before we disbanded and made it insurance board, we brought on about 100 additional employees when we went full-time EMS. Huge difference. How many years have we done that? 2 going on 3. How many years have we seen the swing in the insurance? 2 going on 3. Plus, this year, he alluded to lasers or the carving out. The philosophy of the board was to try to get ahead of that, so when they told us that now we are exposed as a county to pay the first 200, the first 300 on this particular situation, instead of hoping that we didn't dip into the 1.2, we're funding for the 2 or 3. So we're becoming more proactive. So when you add 100 employees, when you get the lasers that we've not had, we've been fortunate not had, and nobody wants to be lasered. So I'm not making sure, but we're being proactive so that we don't come back at the end and say, we have to have 2 million today. Good luck finding it. One other thing, and it's my philosophy, and I've talked to Dan about it, and I think he'll agree with me, and I'll sit back down. Bringing on a lot of the EMS, they are a younger generation. And we have, if you look at our employees, we're more on the backside or an older side compared to some of the companies out here. With that said, I think we need to strongly, and that we're seeing premiums going up, we're seeing reinsurance getting harder to get, we're seeing a lot of things moving against us. I'm going to come to you as a board member, I'm going to come to you to get on the bandwagon to help us. We need an HSA, period. We've talked about it, we're meeting on it here soon. I think that'll be an alternative coming down the line that will help some of the younger employees and at the same time, hopefully, hedge some of these huge increases that we've witnessed in the last 2 years. So the reason why I came up here is to tell you a little bit, to thank Dan, to expand upon what he gave you, and at the same time, I think one thing to help everyone would be a HSA. Thank you.
Just when you thought you'd heard me talk. The one item I did not address is the motor vehicle highway, additional for health insurance, PERF, and FICA. While our new financial system and payroll system has many features that are better than the old, one feature that isn't quite as flexible as the old system is that we are locked into paying out of budgets the benefits like the group health and the PERF and the FICA. We're locked into paying those out of the same fund that the employees paid from. Tony Hinkle, the county engineer, is paid from the motor vehicle highway fund. He's paid from that fund primarily because, most importantly because, that is the same fund that the state subsidy for his salary is receded to. So, you know, we must pay that from the same fund. And whereas before we would have charged his benefits to fund the same fund as we pay the other county highway employees, we can't. So that was overlooked or not. We didn't even have the system we have now at budget time. That we didn't know how it operated. So this is another budget cleanup where we need to get the benefits budgeted in the motor vehicle highway fund, which is the same. Having said all that, I'm sure these dollar amounts are on the high side because Tony currently is on military leave and he's being paid at a daily rate based on his approved salary for days that he works, and he doesn't work full-time across the ocean far, far away. But he does do some work remotely, and he's paid a daily rate that's equivalent to his salary when he does work.
When he does that.
But these benefits are calculated based on his full salary,
So we need to do an additional of $34,730 to Motor Vehicle Highway Fund 1176. And I look for a motion for that.
Let him get out of here without hearing.
I'll make a motion, Chip Keller. Approve that.
Thank you, Chip. We have a motion. I look for a second.
Kelly Akala will second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Did we get it all, Dan?
Nope.
No.
You got to vote on the additional for the group health and all those.
Oh,
All
that's
these
right.
here.
Yeah,
Question on that.
Either vote, you got to either get a motion,
Yeah.
no motion.
now we,
So when I added that up, it was 667.5 for the group health, but that was including what was coming out of motor vehicle highway. So I can reduce that by 16,005 to come to 651?
Good catch.
what was the total, Kelly? 651?
651,000 even.
Okay. So rather than, Dan has gone through the trouble of doing those per department, but I think we would be clear in doing it in one swift motion if we so desire.
In favor of that, and I'm in favor of the motion, and I will make that motion.
In the amount of 651,000.
Oh, why not? It's only money, as they say.
We have a motion. For a second,
Maxwell will second that.
further discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carries 6-0. Okay, don't take off anybody. I want to thank you all for putting up with me. This is only my second meeting of leading this, but you are all being very kind to me and leading me along, and I do appreciate that.
I thought our previous meeting with the city and other interested parties went very good
I
today.
do too. Admit, when I got my agenda this week, my breath was a little taken when I saw that it was 3 pages.
And some of those amounts.
I went, kind of sucked it in.
Newbies have any questions about our meetings or?
Josh, have they set a meeting yet for the insurance board?
What is it?
Chips on that board.
Jason attended the solid waste meeting today. That was enlightening. You've been to redevelopment.
He was already part of that. I attended it. I had my first meeting there
You
too.
had yours?
Yeah. Did you go to your first corrections board?
No, I wasn't notified. I don't even know when they meet.
You missed that one?
Yeah.
Dave, would you
Well,
get
Dave
her on your
Rogers, he's in
email
trouble.
list? Vicky,
How often do you meet? When and where?
Here's the appropriation reduction.
You send me a calendar.
we have another paper coming down, which was that appropriation reduction for the $176.
And then here's the addition.
Okay. Oh, this is the grant money, okay. Yeah. That one's the grant money. Oh, they're all there together. But that was the only place we have to sign. That goes with that.
So now I've got a 3-hour story to tell you all.
Let's turn you off.
Batteries out.
Let's see, what is, look, was there anything else on the?
Making it. Somebody
Hold on, let
make
me
it.
look. I gotta look at the papers here. Are we good? I think so. Let me look at the last page. We did the salary ordinance amendments. Yep. Any other business? Anything from the audience that you want to discuss? If not, I look for a motion to adjourn.
Moved.
We have
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Last time, and Brian reminded me, we could have all been sitting here all evening.